we are at 7 o'clock here, so we will go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to thank you all for joining us tonight. My name is Michelle Dean. I'm our Senior Sports Director. On the call with us, I also have Jennifer Tress, our Unified Sport Director, also helps oversee some of our Unified Champion School programming, and several members of our Bocce Sports Management team, who we will introduce to you a little bit later. Just as a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. It will be shared out following this call. Will also be posted on the Special Olympics Pennsylvania website under Sports Offered and then Bocce. So hopefully, you know, if you knew people who weren't able to make it on tonight, that you can forward that information along to them and they'll be able to watch it as well. Everyone is muted on this call. We ask if you have any questions throughout the presentation that you type them into the chat bar. It is typically located at the bottom of your screen. It's kind of a little pop-up, but if it's not there, kind of look around. Sometimes it floats at the top. It just all depends on the settings on your computer. But you just want to click on the little button that says chat, and you can type your questions into there. We will run through the entire presentation and then answer questions at the very end. So we just ask that you be patient with us, but we will stay on as long as it takes to kind of get through whatever questions you all have. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Jen to get us started.
Terrific. Welcome, everyone. Oh, there we go. All right, so tonight's agenda. This doesn't look too long, does it? Something old, something new, and a lot of information that's going to be very important to you. So thank you again for being on our webinar tonight. Okay, let's talk about some coaching topics. So remember, we have a 1-to-4 ratio, which is 1 coach to every 4 athletes, and we must maintain this at all times. Whether you're on the way to a competition, you're at a competition, or you're on the way from it, you must have the 1-to-4 ratio. You also must have that 4-to-1 ratio when you are working at your training. So it's competition as well as training. And remember, coaches within the 1-to-4 ratio must be a Class A volunteer, okay? For all sports, you must have 1 certified coach per sport or per team. So in the past, we haven't had too much problems with this, so we need to remember that we always have to have a certified coach per sport or per team. We have some changes coming for by the end of 2020. So for your teams, as always, you must have at least that 1 certified coach per team. Your individual sports or your skills, there must be at least 1 certified coach per 25 athletes for skills and for individual skills. Bocce is considered an individual event. So for every 25 athletes you have participating in Bocce, you must have 1 certified coach for every 25. Okay. And you must have a certified coach in skills for every state event starting in January of 2021. And by skills there, we're referring to your soccer skills, your basketball skills, volleyball skills. So all those team sports that have skills, you will have to have a certified coach for them. Okay. Let's still talk a little bit about the VSys portal. You can see training schools and webinars and more. It's that big yellow circled spot there. Underneath it, there are 3 options. It says Sports Skills Training Sign Up. So this means once we have advertised a training school, you can go into your VSys portal, your personal place, and you can sign up for a training school. Okay. Sports Skills Training Interest Track 1. This is for those of you who need certification. So the coach can go in, they can click on this button, confirm the information that you're seeing, and then at the bottom there is a summer, winter, and fall tab. Click on which tab you're looking for and find the sport. So if you are looking for Bocce, you would click on the fall tab and you would click on Bocce. This tells me that you need a Bocce training. Okay. Then if you go to Special Olympics PA Track 2 Experienced Coach, this is for coaches who have advanced training in a sport before coming to Special Olympics. So for example, if you are a coach who coaches a high school team, and you've played for probably 15 to 20 years, and you might have even done some officiating, you would not have to take our skills course. We would put you through what we call Track 2, and that would be taking a special course to learn about Special Olympic athletes, and then from there, you would be able to complete your certification. So again, signing up for a training school, the sports skills interest is telling us what training you need, and then if you are a Track 2 coach or what we call an experienced coach, completing the form for Track 2. And again, you can find this all on the VSys portal, that information tab. The other piece you need to know about that information tab is once you click on a training school and you register for it, it will disappear from that screen. It disappears because it is now on your calendar. So if you look at your calendar under My Information, you will see that the information for the training school is now on that date on your calendar. Okay? It didn't disappear. It just moved it there. The other thing you need to know is when you complete a training, this tab will list all of your trainings and their expiration dates. So when you sign up for a training, it will go to your tab. It will also go into your database record, okay? But it will not have an expiration date with it. Once you complete your sports training application and you submit it, your training, you will get an expiration date, which means that you are now considered certified. And if you go to My Information tab, completed trainings, you will see everything you are currently certified in. Okay. When you go into your database record, you will see on the very front page, we now have a section that tells you about your trainings. So in red, it's a little tough to read, but it has there your background clearance, it has your protective behaviors, your general orientation, and your concussion training. If you do not have those items, they will be highlighted in red, and as you can see, it tells you that there's a 20% completion on this tab. Okay, so it'll say to go to Class A trainings. Okay, click on that tab, and you will see Fit 5, General Orientation, Heads Up, Concussion, and Youth Sports, as well as Protective Behaviors. Click on one of those. It'll take you directly to the training. Once you've completed the training, it will automatically show up in your database record. So then you can go back to the My Information tab, and you will see the updated training right there. So those are where to find protective behaviors, general orientation, and concussion training. All right, let's talk a little bit about some job descriptions. The first one we have here is the head coach. The head coach should be certified in the sport and knowledgeable of the NGB. Remember, the NGB stands for National Governing Body, and you should know who is the national governing body for your sport. In Bocce, that would be Special Olympics. The head coach supervises all coaches and athletes. They decide on a training site. They develop a communication network. Who's going to be calling who if we have to cancel practice? Who's going to be calling who for attendance at a competition or training. They decide on the disciplinary measures of their athletes and coaches. They distribute crisis plans. They are responsible for equipment, transportation, and lodging when traveling to events. They assign duties to assistant coaches. They assure assistant coaches and athletes receive schedules, rules, and any important dates and materials that are needed. This is a big one. They help with the volunteers. They make sure they are cleared, which would be their background clearance before the first practice. Remember, no volunteers should be working with the athletes until they are cleared, and they must have concussion training before working with the athletes at the first training. They have to make sure that the athletes have complete and current medical on file before the first practice, and they need to complete all the required paperwork. This would be competition paperwork, training numbers at the end of the season, and any other papers that they are asked to complete, including incident reports and code of conduct from practice and competition. The assistant coach, they assist the head coach and they help supervise the athletes. They should be working towards being certified in the sport. They should perform all duties as assigned by their head coach, assist in evaluating training. They should arrive on time for practice and stay throughout the practice. They assist with the uniforms, collection of medicals, and the taking attendance. So the assistant coach obviously helps the head coach with their duties and responsibilities. Practice plans. Practice plans are often an overlooked step, and sometimes we know we have it all in our head, but we don't write it down. So we need to write it down so it can be shared with your assistants, and it keeps your practice organized. You set specific times, and you stick to them, okay? These lesson plans allow you to be prepared for the next drill. Everybody knows what the drill is, so any assistants or volunteers or even parents who might want to help out can be setting up the next drill while you are finishing up a drill, and it maintains a consistent structure to your practice. Okay? It ensures that there's a good flow of and rhythm to what's being done, and the athletes can move right from skill to skill without having to stop and have downtime, okay? Our athletes are not fans of downtime. They like to go, go, go. So make sure you've got those practice plans ready and everybody is prepared and has a copy of them.
All right, pass it over to me here. And just a little heads up, we should have mentioned this in the beginning, but doing a bunch of housekeeping here, right? So just good information for you all as coaches who have. A lot of this, as Jen kind of went through, all of this information can really be found on the website. So here's one of the snapshots to our website. If you go in that volunteer resource tab, you can click on the volunteer center. If you're also looking to take, again, general orientation, protective behaviors, it'll give you some information on them there. But as Jen said, we're now taking all of those courses through VSys. So it is going to instruct you to log into your VSys portal account and then actually take the trainings through there. So as a reminder for continuing education, I hope you're all aware of this, but once you do become a certified coach, so you take a skills training or you do the track 2 certification, you return your STA form, your sports training application, into Jen that says you've done your 10 hours of practicum. You will become that certified coach. As a certified coach, it's required that you take a continuing education once every 3 years. Many of these can be done and conducted online. Some take less than just, a few minutes of your time. Some that you do can take, up to an hour. So there's a lot of places. We have a lot of options that are listed here on the website. So if you see, again, it'll give you kind of alerts as to when your certifications are running up as you're signing into your VSys portal. So when you see that you're approaching that date, you can go on, you can click on this continuing education course options. It'll list a bunch of things there for you that you can do. One of those options is our Lunch and Learn series. So we hold these. They are every second Wednesday of the month at noon. They are all recorded because we know that not everyone can make a noon call, but you're able to access them right from our website. The link is there. I will be sending this out as a PDF along with the recording, so you will be able to kind of navigate and click on some of these links that are in here. These are just a few examples that I pulled of recordings that you can go in and access. Some of these count as continuing education as well. So if you take a Lunch and Learn, each of the ones that qualify for continuing education have a quiz attached to them. So after you take a Lunch and Learn, you'll see right there on our website, there's a link for a quiz. Just click on the quiz, go in and take the quiz. Jen will pull that stuff once or twice a month. So if you're looking to use a Lunch and Learn as a continuing education and you not see it being updated automatically, That's why, because it is something that Jen has to go in and manually pull. So if you were needing it for an upcoming event or something, if you just drop her an email, she can go in and verify that you have indeed completed that. We left a few open slots towards the end of this year. So our October, November, December lunch and learn slots are open. We were looking to kind of address any hot topics that might come up. So if there's anything that we can go over for you that, you wish you had some more information about, shoot me an email or put something in the chat bar here, and we will look into running some of those as lunch and learn. Just a reminder, hope that you've all heard of this at this point. So it's our coach training and progression plan. And again, in a few slides here, we'll talk about athletes setting goals and personal best. So this is kind of our coach addition to that. In just, pushing our coaches to want to kind of take those next steps with their education as well. So you can see outlined here. I'll just dive into the next one as well. But it just kind of outlines each of them. So a certified coach, we just talked a lot about, right? It's getting that skill certification, doing the practicum hours. So to then kind of step up through, so a bronze coach adds Fit 5 activation to all of your practices, and I'll get into that in a second. Also working with all your athletes on personal best performance goals, and you've taken the Coaching Special Olympics Athletes course. And we are offering that course in person several times per year, so you can look out for those under the training school options. That course is also available.
Those courses are also free.
The ones that we do in person are free. The Coaching Special Olympics Athletes is also available online for like $16, $17. The silver level of the progression adds athlete goal setting. So now you're doing kind of personal best performance goals as well as athlete goal setting. You are training for a minimum of 10 weeks. So again, the requirement is 8, so you're lengthening your training season. You participate in the Principles of Coaching course, which again, as Jen said, we are offering in-person courses that are free of charge, and taking the Coaching Unified Sports course. We have not offered them in person yet, but we will be offering them in person shortly. You can also take that course online through the National Federation of High Schools, and that you can link to that through that continuing education link from our website that I had showed you earlier, and that is a free course. That Coaching Unified course is a free course. And then the gold is adding some advanced sports skills courses. So we are working with a lot of our sport directors to put those courses together at this time. You start training at least twice a week. So for those of you who may be training just once a week now, adding an additional training season to your 10 weeks of practice, or additional training session to your 10 weeks of practice. And then working with each of your athletes to develop a year-round training and wellness plan. So those are some of the steps, and we would highly encourage each of you to, start to work your way up through them. It's been pretty well received by the group thus far. So I'll just kind of highlight a little bit here on Fit 5. So this is just some information on how to get started. At this point in time, Fit 5 is available to anyone who would like to be utilizing it with their team. So as an individual coach, you can go to, again, it's a Special Olympics website. If you go under More Than Sports, there's a tab that says Health Programs. And when you got to scroll down the page a little bit, but you'll see all the information on Fit 5. You click on that Fit 5 sign-up form. It's just kind of an Excel document, but you just go through and you fill your information in there. And Chelsea Draub is the individual who runs this out of our office, and she is constantly checking that form and communicating with people who have entered some information there. So she'll be the one that gets in touch with you. She'll, ask you a few questions, spend a little bit of time with you, make sure you've got a full understanding of it, and kind of give you the next step. It's a 12-minute online training that we ask you to go ahead and do. And once you've completed that, Chelsea will send out the materials for you. So the materials are here on the next page. And I've got some little ones coming in. So Fit 5 is really just, you see the goals here, super kind of straightforward. Jen, would you mind taking over this?
Yep, you got it. Switch me to host so I can flip the slides, please. So the goals of Fit5 are very simple. It's exercise 5 days a week. Okay? It works on the athlete's endurance, strength, flexibility, and balance. And of course, it helps you remember that exercise is fun, and you work on reaching your Fit5 exercise goals. Then we're going to eat 5 total fruits and vegetables today. Notice the 5 is in there again. We're looking at healthy weights, healthy foods, building a healthy plate, perfect proportions, healthy meals and snacks, and reading your Fit5 nutritional goals. And our last 5 is drink 5 water bottles per day. Hydration, dehydration, healthy beverage choices, and reaching your Fit5 healthy goals. And they are looking at a 20-ounce water bottle as what is considered a water bottle. That is the 20-ounce water bottle. So those are the goals of Fit5. It is to be able to do your three fives: exercise, eat, and drink. Okay.
All right, cool, Jen. Thank you. Sorry about
You're
that.
welcome.
So just a kind of a real brief overview of who gets what. So again, once you sign up, you'll let Chelsea know how many coaches you have, how many athletes are participating on your team and will be a part of this program. And these are the tools that we'll provide you. The coach's guide there, which is Exhibit A, walks you through, it's really kind of a facilitator's guide. So it literally walks you through exactly what to say for each practice that you're facilitating. It typically takes about 5 to 10 minutes to get through the lessons. They're different lengths. You could always review it ahead of time to give yourself some understanding as to how long that one will take. But super straightforward, you know, really a turnkey toolkit to help you provide some of this information to the athletes. As part of Fit5, it does encourage and kind of gives a brief overview on personal best tracking and athlete goal setting. And for personal best tracking for a sport like Bocce, we utilize the assessment skills scores. So we'll get into that here in a few minutes. But as you're doing those skills assessments that you need to turn in for competition so we can properly division you, that is what we suggest that you utilize as personal best tracking in a sport like Bocce. And, you know, it's encouraging those athletes that every time they're doing that, just to try to do a little bit better. When we're talking about goal setting and tracking, so goals can really be anything. I'm sure you guys have heard SMART goals, you know, so just making sure that they're measurable, they're attainable, that you're kind of strategic about how you're working with the athletes to set each of those goals. But this is something that we want our coaches to start doing more and more with our athletes, and to encourage our athletes to be challenging themselves a little bit more and just getting to that next level of their abilities and kind of participation in the game. So just some examples on here. This is a specific one that one of our programs uses for track and field. I know a little bit easier to kind of set goals and measure those things in some time sports, but goals can really, you know, can really be anything. So just again, ask that you're working with your athletes, you're having those conversations, and you're setting those things together. Just some quick updates for you on where we are with kind of the next and upcoming USA and World Games. So I left Sweden in here. Clearly, Bocce is not a snow sport, but if any of you kind of have questions or wondering kind of where that stands. So the next opportunity for Bocce will be at the 2022 Games, which is in Orlando. The qualifier for that will be Fall Fest next year, so Fall Fest 2020. So again, just kind of keeping that in mind as, you know, you're planning local events, if you're going to utilize those as qualifiers for the sectional events. And then again, the sectional events will continue to be qualifiers through Fall Fest. But it will be next year, 2020, that will be the qualifier for that. The one thing that we're looking to update here and take a little bit of a different approach than we've done previously is we're going to be sending some pre-screening questionnaires to coaches. And we're going to ask that if your athlete is interested, if you have an athlete attending Fall Fest and they're interested in going on to be part of that Team PA to go to USA Games, that the coach is filling out a questionnaire that really just aligns with the criteria that we're looking for athletes' participation in those games. So again, something we'll try. We're going to do kind of a little pilot program with the upcoming World Games and the selection of those athletes there. but just something to kind of be on the lookout for as we move forward. And then our last one, and then we'll dive into Bocce, is just allocations and advancement. I know this is always kind of a hot topic, and people always have a lot of questions about it. We will actually be doing one of our lunch and learns coming up here on allocations. I think Mike Irmer did a really good job. We were just at Leadership Conference in kind of walking our volunteers and coaches through it, but kind of just through how we get from point A to point B. And I think it's just a better understanding. It allows you to kind of understand the specifics of that. So he's going to put together a lunch and learn that'll be accessible on the website that just walks you all through kind of how we get those numbers. But programs receive initial allocations for sectionals based on training numbers from the previous season. From there, they're able to make additional requests on the LOI or the letter of intent. As I'm sure most of you know, sectionals are qualifiers for Bocce, so you have to attend a sectional in order to advance to states. Even if you get put on, if you're kind of filling in for someone who wasn't able to attend Fall Fest, you still would have needed to attend the sectional and compete it in the sectional to be an alternate and kind of fill in one of those slots for Fall Fest. Each sectional is going to receive allocations based on the requested slots to advance to states and the percentage of athletes training in that section of the state. So I know this is where it gets a little bit confusing. I put together here in the link, and again, once you have the PDF, you'll be able to click on that link, but that kind of just explains that a little bit more. So for Bocce specifically, the Eastern information for Eastern Fall Sectional is due on September 27th. So that'll be the last of the registrations. Once we have all the registrations collected and we know how many athletes from each section of the state are asking to advance to Fall Fest, we will then determine the number of allocations that each sectional has. And again, that'll be based on the number of athletes, the percentage of athletes that are training in each section of the state. And again, that document does help outline that a bit more. All right, going to pass it back over to you, Jen, to introduce our sport management team for Bocce.
Hey, our sports management team is a group of volunteers who have been overseeing the venue. They're helping to update the rules, the policies, and the procedures. Okay, so we'll start off with our sport director, Deb Andrews. Deb is from Columbia, Montour. She is overseeing this group of volunteers, her sports management team. On the call tonight, we definitely have Sue Ann Jacobs from Area P. Laura Davis is on from Columbia, Montour. Cindy Walters is on from Bucks. The other two members who were not able to make the call tonight, Linda Gitson from Allegheny County and Dawn and Diane Chester from Center County. So if you have questions, these are the people you need to reach out to, and they will get you the right answers, and they will help you out. So I'm going to turn this over to Deb and her management team.
Hi, I'm Deb Andrews. Some of you know me, some of you don't, but I did show a picture that Cindy had brought me back from National Games of the coaching chair last year at Villanova to just get people ready. This is going to happen this year. One coach will only be permitted to sit next to the scorer's table. Depends on where the scorer's table is at the competition, but that's where one coach will sit. All the other coaches are in the spectator area and will not be coaching during play anymore. We are considering play now from the time the game starts till the time the game ends. It is not in between roles. There is no more coaching. There's been too many problems with it, so this is how they handle it at other states and other levels, so that's how we're handling it. You can't tell the athletes when and where to roll. This is a competition between your two athletes. You've trained your athletes. They should know how to speak to each other. Only the athletes can call for the measurement, and the only things coaches can do now is be positive. Good job, great roll, yay, that kind of thing. There's no more in-between roles coaching. The consequences, your first warning, everyone, will be at the coaches' meeting at each state event. There won't be any individual warnings given. The second warning, the coach will lose your right to sit at the score table and you'll be sent to the bleachers for the remainder of the tournament, not the remainder of that game, for the remainder of the entire tournament. If you see anybody breaking these rules, please notify me immediately. Don't wait until 15, 20 minutes after the game. There's nothing that can be done then. So if you can't find me, then find a SOPA staff or the venue director from the university or whatever venue we're at that's at that site. Is this still me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. We've had a lot of issues with how people measure. Some people are measuring in inches. Some people are measuring in yards. Some people are measuring in meters, centimeters. Some people are measuring all 9 balls or all 8 balls. Athletes roll 8 balls with the Pallina on the 30-foot line, and they roll them. You get rid of the 5 that are bad, the worst balls. You save the 3 that are closest to the Pallina. Those are the ones you measure. You do the same thing at the 40-foot line, the same thing at the 50-foot line. You should have 9 measurements. They should be measured in centimeters. Then you add it up and you have 1 score. Please use a measuring tape that is metric. You should have 9 distances completed when it's all over.
Okay, my name is Sue Ann Jacobs. I'm from Area P, and I'm just going to give you some heads up on things that you really need to be teaching your athletes to do, since it is now going to be their responsibility. As we said before, only the athletes or their partner, unified partner, can actually call for a measurement. And the athlete needs to know that that's what they need to do. And they need to know how the ball is measured, which is from the bottom where the bocce ball is against the ground to the top center of the Pallina. So that's just one more step you just kind of need to be teaching your athletes so that they're prepared for that. And to feel comfortable in saying, I'd like a measurement, please. The other thing, I'm going to give you some just reminders people seem to know, but to know that we're clear on, it's in reference to the Pallina. And we have done this for the last couple of years, and our rule is if the Pallina lands in play but is closer than a foot to the sidewalls, that the official will move the Pallina out so that it is a foot from the sidewall, so there should be no re-rolling of that ball. In order to keep things going and make it a good ball, it will just be moved out a foot from the rails. The other things the athletes need to know is that the Pallina, if it lands anywhere on the 30-foot line, it has to be re-rolled. It must go beyond that 30-foot line. If any part of it is touching the 30-foot line, it doesn't count. Likewise, at the opposite end of the court, if the ball lands touching the 50-foot line at all, it has to be re-rolled. It must be prior to that 50-foot mark. And then just the reminder that every athlete has 3 chances to make a roll from their team. And if they throw 3 bad rolls, then 1 roll from their opposing team gets to be rolled. If they make that roll, that's good. Then the initial rolling team gets to play the first ball. But if after those 3 rolls and that 1 roll from the opposing team aren't good balls, then the official will use the 40-foot line, and they will put the Pallina in the center of the 40-foot line, which is the middle of the course, and the original team will then roll their first ball.
Deb, I think we're back to you.
Oh, we're back to me, okay. And when the 2-minute warning, some people don't seem to understand that the 2-minute warning, if the 2-minute warning is called after 1 ball is thrown, including the Pallina, then they finish that frame and play a whole nother frame. You need to play 1 full frame after the 2-minute warning. So a frame begins when the first Pallina attempt is rolled. That means that even if that player has to roll that Pallina 3 times, it's still, the frame has started when that Pallina had been thrown the first time. So that frame is started, and then they say 2 minutes. You're still going to finish that frame and go on to the next frame. And then you can't end any frame in a tie. You need to go on to the next frame, or the next slide, please. If there's a tie during a frame, the last person, of course, who rolled the last ball created the tie. They continue to roll until the tie is broken or they're out of balls. If they can't break the tie, then there's no, at the end of that frame, then no points are given in that frame. That's a dead frame. That frame starts over the same way that next frame is, the exact same way that the first frame started. So it's the same people who throw the Pallina, the same people throwing the Bocce. But it's a dead frame if it ends at a tie at the end of the frame.
Sectionals. 20 minutes prior to the play starting, the courts will be open for you to have some practice time. Please, we have over 100 athletes at Bocce for Eastern Fall Sectionals. We have to share the court. We have to, just like in swimming, you have to share the lanes when you do your warm-ups. But the courts will not be open to you until after opening ceremonies. And yes, last year we did, not last year, but the year before, we did have time slots scheduled for Fall Fest.
We did last year too, Cindy.
Did we? Okay. I wasn't sure. And some coaches don't want to do it, and some do. It's up to you. But we have to share the courts. How many courts, Debbie, do you know how many courts they're setting up for at sectionals?
Last year we had 5. I'm not sure if it depends on the space.
Okay.
Depends on which sectional you're talking about also.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Space. Yeah, they're all different all across the state.
Okay. All right, so that's 20 minutes. And you should know what court your athletes are basically playing on. So if you want to have a chance to use that, to practice on that court, you can. We're playing from one side of the court. It stops a lot of the time, killing of the time. The clock is ticking, as I also tell my athletes. So just remember, coach is in the coach's chair.
Okay. Laura Davis was going to be presenting these next slides, but unfortunately she's having some computer problems. So Deb, do you want to finish up here?
All right, as far as ramps go, if there's a volunteer available, most times there is, but if there is not, you can use the person's partner. But they place the ramp on their court with their back to the play area. This is the person placing the ramp. They take direction from the athlete where the ramp should be moved. They don't put the ramp somewhere and say, is that okay? They wait for the athlete to tell them. Then they place the ball on the ramp, and the athlete must be able to propel the ball without the use of any kind of aids. So if the athlete propels the ball down the ramp, that's, if there's, a teammate may assist them, but only when there is no volunteers available. And no part of the ramp must be on, the ramp is considered the same thing as a foot foul. You cannot go over the line. They can put the ramp, it can touch the line, it can be behind the line, but it cannot pass the foul line. If it passes the foul line, it's just the same as a foot foul. Is this still me? Oh, yes.
It is.
Okay. Review your schedule at all times. Be on deck prior to your match. Try to be there 10 minutes prior to your match. Most of the time we try to come and find you, or we try to announce who's on deck next. But in the past, we've never posted the table sheets. We will be posting the table sheets from now on with the division sheets so that you know what team is playing on what court before you and after you, so you could see how far behind we are, what time. Sometimes we're ahead, sometimes we're behind. So the table sheets will be updated after each match, because we run a different, we try to keep it within those time slots, but sometimes we run a little different. We're going to try this. We hope this will keep the matches moving a little faster. Any questions? Anybody have any questions that they haven't put on the chat? On something? When the Pallina gets placed by the official on the 40-foot line, we do not have a 40-foot line on the court. This is actually the very center of the court between the 30 and the 50-foot line.
I'm assuming everybody understands the no coaching rule.
I'm assuming they will, and we're really going to enforce it this year. And there's not going to be a lot of people hanging around. There'll be one coach in a chair, and Cindy's going to make the little squares for the chairs.
Thanks, Deb.
So if you have any questions, just find out chat bar, go ahead and type them in there. Like I said, we'll hang for a few minutes and hopefully answer any questions that you do have. There was just one question that was brought up, not Bocce specific, but I think always, good to let everyone know the answer. But they have a part-time volunteer, so they live half of the time in PA, half the time in a different state, and we're asking if they can still get cleared as a SOPA Class A. They can. They just need to have the FBI fingerprinting done from both of the states in which they live. Again, I think as most of you know, you need to live in PA for 10 years in order to not to have the fingerprinting. So absolutely, the more volunteers we can get, the merrier, but they'll just need to get fingerprints done. I think that was the only other one. Yeah. So again, we'll hang for a few minutes. If you've got any specific questions, feel free to drop them in that chat bar. Do want to thank you all for joining us tonight. Hopefully you found this beneficial. Feel free to reach out to myself, Jen, any of the members of our sport management team, again, throughout the season if you have any additional questions.
We do have a question that just came in. It is, who determines if the seated coach is encouraging an athlete or using terms that could be coaching signals? Anyone want to take this one before I put in my 2 cents?
Well, my 2 cents would be me, the venue coordinator, any assistants I have there, or a SOPA staff.
Okay. Yep, they will. You are the ones who will make the decision. The scorekeeper can bring that to the attention, and another coach could bring it to the attention of Deb, the management team, or the venue coordinator, or the SOPA staff that is there. So everyone would, anyone who witnesses it could bring it to our attention. But as Deb had said earlier, I think it was Deb who said, don't wait for the match to be over, do it as soon as you see it.
Right, you can't do anything a half hour later. You can't,
And what we had said at one point, they can stop the clock of the game. Stop the time to record it.
And I think this really comes down to, your athletes are working hard. They're training throughout the entire season. Empower them. Once they get to competition, they're on their own. And again, I think it's just working with them to know that throughout practices here in the beginning of the season to make them comfortable enough to be at that point once you do get to competition. But I think this is just another way that we're really empowering our athletes to be out there and doing this on their own. And as we typically see, they'll surprise you.
And
they'll be able to do it.
We're trying to help some of our coaches let go a little.
All right.
All right.
George, I hope that answered your question.
But Debbie, I think we said also the coach does not have to sit there. The coach doesn't have to be on the court, correct?
No, if the coach would rather sit in the bleachers, they may. But they cannot sit with the athletes.
And they may not coach from the bleachers.
That's right. And we're going to
But
watch their babies in umbrellas.
They also come down and sign off, though, on the score sheet.
Laura Davis would like to stress how important it is for the teams to be available when it is their time to compete. So Laura's asking that coaches make sure you are looking at the schedule, make sure you are looking at those table charts, and be on time and be prepared to compete at your time. We do tend to run a little bit ahead. If we start behind, we still end up ahead in bocce. We'd like to keep it that way. So coaches, please, 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 says Laura, be available when it is time to compete.
I think the other thing to stress to your athletes is making sure that they're checking in with the scorers table, not only with your county, but with their individual names. We have had some situations where the wrong team has played from a county, which then, completely messes up divisions and kind of messes up the schedule. So, again, just make sure that it's one of the things that you're going over with them, that they're checking in, they're giving their names, the people at the scores table are checking that off to make sure that it is indeed the right teams there to compete together.
And I think having the table sheets out there will help eliminate some of that.
Yeah, the table sheets, I think, are a great idea, and we're going to be able to, we'll circle the team that won, so you know that they are on time or they are finished, to ensure that you are following along.
And we here at Columbia Montour, we have some dry erase boards that we will be bringing with us, which we use for on deck, which the athletes can then see, here's who's on deck next, and if you put it up there, they tend to get there a little faster when they know that, when they see their names up there.
Okay. Our next question is from Art Jump. Art would like to know how we plan to handle lower functioning athletes who need constant prompting.
Art, this is a question I've had for a long time, and we're hoping that we will get the amount of volunteers that we need, because the athletes do tend to listen a little better to volunteers because they love having all those new people with them. So we're going to really focus on trying to get the volunteers to be there.
And we do recommend that if you have a very low functioning partner, please do not be putting two very low functioning partners together. If they both need prompting, they may not be ready to go to the competition.
The other thing I'd like to share with you all, and it came really directly from your input over the past few years, is we're taking a lot of efforts to recruit bocce knowledgeable or adult bocce officials, as opposed to relying on the college students so heavily, which we have done a lot of in the past. So we've made some really good connections at this point with bocce clubs in the eastern part of the state and the western part of the state. Central has been a little bit more difficult, just not as many opportunities out there to connect with someone like that. But what we're hoping works out is we've tried to utilize Sheets and potentially getting some of Sheets employees to come out and also not volunteer capacity for us officiating bocce. So we're trying to make some efforts here to make the officiating game better. And like Dad said, I mean, ideally we've got a line judge and a official. So, you know, that line judge's job really is to be letting the athletes know, you know, it's Red's turn, it's, you know, it's Green's turn. So hoping to make some progress there this year.
And Dorothy, so we're not saying that volunteers are coaching them. We're saying we have volunteers being line officials who are saying it's your turn. It's Red turn, it's Green turn. So the volunteers will not be coaching them where to roll the ball. They will just be helping them get to the court when it's their turn.
Deb, do you want to talk a little bit about delay of game?
About the what? I'm sorry, Michelle.
About delay of game?
Well, that was our biggest problem that's why we have to institute the chair, because delay of game is coaches delaying the game by holding their athletes back, telling them where to stand, what to do, and where there will be no delay of game allowed by their partners either. So, coaches need to teach their partners, don't hold your, if it's a lower functioning partner, don't hold them back trying to tell them where to stand or where to throw. That's also called delay of game. And, but that's really the only biggest thing we've had with delay of game. There's not a lot of other, we don't get a lot of the things that are in the rules anymore, birds and weeds and all that stuff.
Okay, it looks like the questions might be coming to an end. We haven't had one for a while.
So people must understand a lot of what we're doing then.
That's a good thing because it's coming quick.
Yes, that is a good thing.
Yeah, it's great. And again, thanks everyone for joining tonight. We hope and look forward to seeing you all out at sectionals and Bocce Bash and the Fall Fest over the course of the season here.
And can I put in a plug? Can I put a little plug in? If anybody did not receive the information for Bocce Bash and wants to attend, please contact myself or Laura. But you can it's easier to contact Laura because her email's easier than mine. It's laldavis@yahoo.com. If you want to attend the Bocce Bash.
And you can see it if you can see the Zoom group chat. Laura typed in her email there, laldavis@yahoo.com.
What's the date of that, Deb?
October 20th. It's a Sunday. And if you want to know what a good time it is, Bucks County comes on Saturday and spends the night.
All right, great. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining.
Okay. Just one more thing I need to say. Laura says if you need a hotel, let her know. She knows where to get you one. And yes, the copy of this PowerPoint with the voices you are hearing will be available. You can find that information on the SOPA website, and I believe we're sending it out to all bocce coaches. Is that correct, Michelle?
Yep, I will send it to the same listserv that we had sent the information to originally. It's all the certified coaches that are listed in the VSys database.
Yep, and if you go onto the SOPA website, you can go under events offered, and you will find it under Bocce. Again, that's the SOPA website, training and competition, and then it's under, it's sports and competition, and then you will find it under, there, Michelle's got it, sports offered, and it will be found under Bocce when you scroll down a little bit. There's Bocce.
Can I say
and there's
one
all
more
the
thing?
information.
Can I say
go
one more
ahead.
thing? And if you want to know how to officiate Bocce, Cindy let us know that Texas is using our video, so we must have done a pretty good job with it. So if you want to learn how to officiate, look at our video on YouTube, how to officiate Bocce.
And you can find the link right on this same page as you're finding the link to this presentation, how to officiate Bocce training video. Okay. Very good. All right. Once again, thank you all for participating in our call tonight. We look forward to seeing you this Bocce season, and we hope to see you in the coach's chair and not in the bleachers. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful night.